Hi everyone, so I'm back with part 2 of my previous work of the birthing a new beginning video, and I was talking about the how I handle pain and how I felt when I was in the restroom and I was dealing with, I guess now, their contractions. I mean, because it was surreal. Like I felt like I was, sorry everybody, Father had me take a break because he wanted to give me additional revelation and because I needed to eat. So after I gave birth, he had me go to sleep. Then I went to work. And this young girl that I have been working with over the past couple weeks has been slowly irking me. And to the point where I finally said, God, this is not okay. So what she was doing is she was cleaning the tables, but instead of clearing out her dishes and moving on to the next table, she was in such a hurry to get to the next table to ensure nobody beat her to the tips that were on that table, that she would just pile up her dishes everywhere, all over the counter. It didn't matter. If there was an empty space, she put dishes there. And it didn't matter what side of the dining room it was on, there were piles of dishes, and they followed her everywhere. And at first, I was going, I would see the dishes and I would take care of the trash and I'd put them away. And she'd be continuing to do it. And then I began noticing that she would do the same thing when she was making boxes. And, she would make piles and piles and piles. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, okay, I'm gone. And I'm like, are you going to put away the boxes? And she's like, oh, well, they told me to go, so sorry. I was like, what the fudge bucket? I'm like, all right. So I had just gone through an ordeal. I mean, and when I say I was sweating, like I literally was dripping sweat. I've never had anything happen like that before, like ever. Not even when I'm in a sauna. I don't sweat. That's not the kind of person I am. And I literally was pouring sweat down my face. And so I finally said, Father, this is not okay. I get that she wants the tips and I get that she needs the money. And I don't care about that. I don't care about the money. I said, but I'm not her servant. I'm not here to serve her. And that's what this is what I feel like I'm doing. And God said, tell her that it's not okay. I'm like, what? It's like, tell her it's not okay. That you're not okay with what she's doing. I was like, are you punking me? And he's like, no, just tell her. I'm like, okay. So I said my prayer, God, let it be your words and not mine. Let it be you that comes through and not me. Because I don't want it to come from my flesh. I don't want it to come from a place of arrogance or a place of selfishness. I want it to be understood that this wasn't an attack on her. So I waited, I did not touch any of the plates and they just kept piling on and piling on and piling on. And Father says, you got to say something because it's not going to change. And I'm like, well, I did already tell the manager that if she did this again, that I would say something to her. And I'm a man. I am, as God is, a woman of my word. If I say something, I do it. I don't do half-ass things. I don't change my mind. I commit to it because that is the kind of people that God wants. If you say something, you're not going to change your mind. You're going to follow through with it. That's why you have to think very well, and you have to listen to what God is telling you to do before you commit to do something. Because He doesn't want us backtracking. He doesn't want us looking like fools. So I went to grab the dishes because I was out in the dining room delivering food. And as I was coming back around, I saw the dishes. And he goes, pick them up and take them in. And I'm like, okay. And then tell her what you want to tell her. Okay. So I grabbed the dishes. And as I'm walking in, she's folding boxes. And I said, listen, I get that you're in a hurry to clean the tables. And I appreciate that because the dining room should look clean for all our customers. I said, but it's not okay to leave the trash where the customers can see it. It does not look clean. It makes us look lazy. It makes us look like we don't care about the store. I said, you need to make sure you're taking care of your trash. And she just was like taken aback, like she couldn't believe that I was telling her this. And then she looks at me and she went to complain to me about what I said to her, but she couldn't. Instead, she ended up grumbling under her breath. I'm like, I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. I didn't tell you that. I didn't call you outside of your name. I didn't say anything that was inappropriate. And if you go to any manager and you complain to them that I told you that you needed to take care of the dishes, they're going to tell you the same thing. You can't leave the dishes where the customers can see it. It doesn't look pretty. It makes us look lazy. It makes us look like we don't care about the store. Nobody wants to eat in a dirty establishment because it gives the appearance that the back kitchen is also dirty. You know, people don't just eat with their mouth, they eat with their eyes. Their senses are important. If you don't appeal to their senses, they're not going to enjoy their food. So I noticed that she was texting someone. Now, earlier in the day, when I first got there, there was another woman that was there. And this is the woman that had called in and said she couldn't make it, so someone else had to cover for her. And this is also the woman that texted me, asking me if I would cover her shift, and then she would work the next day I was supposed to work. And so she was there. And she had this attitude of superiority. And she looks at me and she says, oh, hey, I left a drink there, and with a little note. She thought I was going to be nosy and go look at the note. I don't care what the note says. The note's not for me. The drink's not for me. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll let her know if I remember. And she's like, yeah, I just left it there for her. You know, she still works so hard and she's always tired. And I was like, okay, it's fine. I completely forgot about the drink, and I was working around and then doing this and doing that. And I finally was like, oh, crap. I said, you know, hey, so-and-so left you a drink. It's in there. There's a note. Sorry, I got caught up with, you know, orders, and I forgot to tell you until just this minute. She goes, oh, yeah, I read the note. She thought I was going to ask her what the note said. And I just turned around and walked away. Like, I don't care. It's none of my business. And she was like, oh. And so the whole time I'm watching her and she's texting. I don't care what other people do. You know, I'm not the manager. If the manager doesn't care if the employees are on their phones during their shifts, then who am I to tell them anything? I'm just a coworker. If I was in authority, in a position of authority, yes. However, when they mess with my dining room, when they mess with the experience of a customer on the people that I serve, now we have a problem. And I had already told my boss, because there's 3 of them that manage. And I had already told my boss, I said, hey, just so you know, this behavior has been going on. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, she just leaves her trays, her trash, all over the counter. You can tell where she's been because there is a stack of trays everywhere. He's like, that's not okay. I said, I know. And the next time she does it, I'm going to tell her something. And he goes, okay. I'm like, all right. Because he knows I'm not going to stay quiet. I've already talked to an employee who was doing the same thing. You know, he was tossing the pizzas onto the counter because he was having a bad day and he was taking it on the food. And he did it to the food that I was about to take, and he just grunted and he threw it down. And I looked at him and I said, do that one more time. And he was like, huh? I said, I am not here to have to explain why people's food looks atrocious. I am not here to deal with an individual who doesn't want to be here. I am not here for you. Sorry guys, the phone is in the sun and it's getting warm and I don't want it to shut down. So, and he got taken aback. And I gave him a few minutes, and then I went back and I talked to him and I said, are you okay now? And he goes, yeah, I've just had a long day. I'm like, I understand that. I've had long days too. I said, but the best thing you can do is push through them. Because there are always going to be long days, and you can't act that way. And every time you have a long day, you know, the others don't deserve the behavior that comes with it. He's like, I know, it's just so tired, and I've been here all day. And I'm like, I understand. And he never did that again. And then I reminded the manager, because that was the reason why that. So the manager and I had a conversation after this young man left about the situation that occurred. And I told him, I said, if he throws another pizza down, I am going to have a conversation with him. And he looks at me like, huh? And I'm like, yeah. You guys obviously aren't doing your job as managers, so I'm going to do your job. Without saying those words, that is exactly what I said to him. So what did he do? He walked into the manager's office and he started typing up a note, telling his staff, addressing himself mostly to the cooks, your day does not need to be felt, it does not need to be seen, and it does not need to be shown on our customers or the staff. You need to come in here with a good attitude. You need to come in here with a great first impression, you know, and be ready to work. And since that day, the cook side of the house is up in order. Now, it's the front area, the cashiering, that I'm not happy with, because they're treating people with disdain, and yet they expect these customers to give them tips. And I'm like, no, you can't get something for nothing. You want to get something, you got to give them something first. And if they don't give you anything, that's okay. You change their attitude. You enhance their day. You enhance their life for that moment that you interacted with them. Not every interaction is about money. Every interaction is about showing them the love of God, which I haven't gotten to yet. But before I leave, God always has me share God. So I had remembered, so this girl, she finally was gone for the day, and she took the majority of the tips. There was probably $4 a piece, and she took $6 and left me with $2. And I was like, and we didn't have any more business the rest of the day. This was on Sunday. So yesterday, it was me and this other girl. And I realized something. They were working together. They thought that between the two of them, they could take me out. You have to take God out first. And you can't beat him. He knows every move you're going to make. He knows every move that every evil spirit is going to do. And I came in, and I kid you not, it was a normal day. I wasn't tired like I normally am, but I did sleep like I normally would. The night wasn't horrendous, but it wasn't great. I'm still sleeping in my car. I'm still sleeping in parking lots. I don't have any air conditioning, so I have to leave the windows open, and it's hot. I wake up in puddles of sweat. But this time, I didn't feel the burden of my current situation. And he doesn't know it. My spouse doesn't know it. But he is literally right around the corner from where I work. He is staying in a hotel. He's doing a staycation with his son. And he is literally around the corner from where I work. He has no idea. None. And I've known him for a while. And when God showed me he was the one, I was like, what? Are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm sure that I'm sure that I'm sure that I'm sure that I'm sure. That's how confirmed God has had it. This person for me. And over the years, he's only said happy birthday twice. When I first met him, and we first became friends, and on Sunday, he said happy birthday. In fact, he was the first one on my timeline to say happy birthday. Granted, my friends are only my family, but I figured if one of them at least would have already said happy birthday, but he was the first one. And so on Monday, I realized, because just Emily posted something, a word from the Lord, but there were other words that God kept pulling back in my view, and I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? And what are you trying to tell me? And because I was birthing, because I was in the process of giving birth to these promises, to these blessings, into the natural, I couldn't focus and open my mind so that God could reveal to me what it is he was trying to tell me. Because when you're, and I can attest that in real labor, when you're birthing a child out of your body, you're not paying attention to anyone else. Your body is what you're focused on, and nothing else matters. It doesn't matter what the car's doing. It doesn't matter what the dog's doing. No one else matters except what your body is doing with that child inside of you. And it doesn't start the day you give birth. It starts a few weeks before, like sometimes 2-3 weeks before, sometimes even 4. You start to feel the uncomfortableness. It's not as bad at first, but as you get closer, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And you're just like, to the point where you almost feel like you want to tear your skin off. And I know that's kind of graphic and it's kind of harsh, but it's not that you really want to tear your skin off. It's just you feel so uncomfortable in your own skin that you just want to end whatever that is, that feeling is, but you can't. And then you add to it the growth that God is developing inside of you. It's just, it's like compounded and compounded and compounded and compounded. And you're just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And so on Monday, and then God brought me to a new prophet. And her name, her YouTube ministry is called In the Presence. And it's the joy of God. She is sharing the joy of God. So God is now allowing me to see full circle. He's allowing me to see all of his sides, all of his manifestations, all of his spirits, all of his different pieces of himself. And I remember the joy because I was a joyful child. And the first video that popped up, I thought she was giddy and kind of odd. And then now that I've given birth, because on Sunday when I first ran into her video, I thought she was kind of odd. I'm like, okay, this is different. But I was laughing, but it wasn't joyful. It was a forced laugh. It was more like a, what do you call it? Someone who laughs along just to be part of the group. I can't remember the word. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I understand that the mannerism in which she's speaking about the joy of God. And so I'm trying to really get into that feeling. But because of the birthing that I was going through, I couldn't. And after I gave birth and I went to work, I had just watched her video about joy, and God is bringing joy, and God, the supernatural joy. And when I got to work, it was like every other day. It was nothing special. But then, when I put my numbers to clock in, and I hit enter, wow. Wow, wow, wow. I felt something that I hadn't felt ever. I felt this immense joy, just this happiness that I didn't perceive to have. And I entered my day of work with such a happiness, such a gleefulness. And I think everybody else noticed it too, because they're just looking at me like, you okay? But I was so happy. And I was walking in, and I was starting to help people on the register and asking them how their day went, and asking them for this, asking them for that, making them laugh and enjoy themselves. And then as I may have to do a part 3 because there's just too much commotion and I'm not going to be able to finish this video, but I'll try. And as I started having this joy, people started tipping. And the girl who this whole time had been ignoring me, had been giving me a hard time, suddenly started noticing that I was getting tips. And it was left and right. Everybody was tipping. $1 here, $10 here, $5 here, $6 there. She didn't know that it was $10 and $6 and all that, because God had me pull out money, pull aside money, because when they steal from me, He replaces it. And I don't have to justify it, because it's God who's telling me. And I believe Him. And the way they act towards me, I know they are. They are stealing. But I can't prove it. And God says, leave it to me. I will take care of it. I'm like, okay. And so there will be a part 3.